They have no life at all. You know what people do now? They go to church. They talk to people on phone. Now churches are now collecting money. Churches are collecting money for you to charge your phone. Well, thank you very much. The rest is with shall we say. And welcome our chairman, Chief. If you hear all this, you are still to that. This is the one Femi people are going to give Hollywood to. They have come to the studio like 10 times. You are not giving it to them. You are still waiting. Shall we say this?
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really honored to be here. Editor, I don't know, I'm not too qualified to call him by his name, German. But I've always called him editor all my life, and I think I will continue to call him. Editor, I was preparing to go for my 8 a.m. class this morning, and I woke up at 5, and I didn't want to go near the phone. So I wanted to just check, whether the classroom had called to say there will be no class because of the strike. But I remember that in the night the strike was called off. So I now saw a text and said that we are doing something today and they wanted me to come and be part of it. I really did not know about it. And not only to be part of it, they wanted me to moderate the session. I just say, hey, that was my initial reaction. But because I never have, I cannot say a no to German, because he never said no to me throughout the time I worked under him when he was editor at The Guardian. And also because the personality he mentioned that we are celebrating today is somebody that I consider more than an Ebon, but like a father, because I follow him, I read him, I hear him, I monitor him, but not that kind of monitoring. Not I follow him everywhere. I read him. I can tell you the story of this storyteller because I really follow him. We may not be seeing every day or calling on the phone. But the thing I like about him is that each time you get across to Uncle Femi, he leaves you with something that will be good for your career and your life. So Uncle Femi, congratulations again. Happy 6th year. It's so nice to be here. So we're here for this panel, a very important panel on storytelling. And I'm not surprised that the people that we have on the panel, they were carefully selected. And these are people that can speak authoritatively on this topic. Nollywood started, with everyone trying to make one story or the other. And at the time they started, I remember that in those early days, Mr. Dr. Victor Kai can allude to this. There was a lot of talk about scripting, having script conferences, and all that before shooting done. Hardly will you hear that a story a story was done and somebody will come at the end of the day and say, oh, this is not how the story was, this is not what was intended and the rest of that. But we have come a long way, and like Ika Ogun said in that interview, that we have really come a long way. But to set the ball rolling, I really want to start not with Ika this time because we heard him. Ika is an authority in that area and is the president of the Scriptwriters Guild. So I will just turn to Mr. Dr. Victor Kai. He doesn't come easy at all. Dr. Victor Kai, I turn to him. Maybe we'll begin by finding out the state of scripting in Nollywood, in the Nigerian film industry. What's your assessment of the state of scripting in the Nigerian film industry? And maybe before we say that, that they keep saying script writing, and the rest of them. Maybe later, Nika will give us a distinction between a script writer and a script here. Maybe later we'll talk about the assessment of the state of scripting or storytelling in Hollywood.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Osedia. You will permit me to do this. I don't think have the time to do it. But please, I just want us to stand up and put our hands together for the man of the moment. My leader, my order, my force for life, you accept the beginning. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I do this not because, we are largely on this, celebrated in this country. I know a lot of people have done this country, I'll answer a question from you. A lot of people have left this country, and they are professors in some of the best universities in the US and across the globe. He has remained here. He could have been the best anywhere he wanted to. I want to apologize that we have not celebrated you the way we should, sir. But we appreciate the fact that you have stayed back, you have touched lives, and continue to do that. I can speak about myself because I worked under your leadership, and I'm truly grateful for our part, because I know what you're saying, but God bless you. And we celebrate you today. Thank you very much. That said, your question is about the state of, let me just say, the script today in today's movie industry. It is said that that if you have a bad script, that no amount of magic can make a great movie out of it. But with a very good script, even with average work, that movie will go places. It is a fact because the script is a foundation. It's like in architecture. The vision, what is conceived and put down on paper is what you see finally on the screen. So if you get a good design, even with a bad builder, that building may not look too terrible. But if you have a horrible design, you might get the best builder, it still make that building beautiful. And in fact, if there are defects, it become very obvious. We have not given sufficient credit to our scriptwriters in this country. I listened to you talking there, and I know he spoke from a position of pain in his heart, where it's like they are not appreciated as much as they should. Again, I apologize, sir. It is a fact. Once the script is written, and then the property is collected, from that point on, in fact, it's the celebrities, the stars that we remember. We don't even remember those who work. We don't even remember the foundation, the architect, the script writers, or even the directors who bring it to the screen. But if we are on Netflix today and if the world is celebrating our stories, it is because we are telling better stories. And it's because we are saying something that the world wants to see and hear. If we're to look at what pioneers, not necessarily in script writing, but in writing generally, like Chinua Achebe, that means the seminal work, Things Fall Apart, for instance, has been interpreted into so many languages globally. I doubt if there's any literate person alive today who has not, in one way or another, encountered that piece of literature. Things fall apart. And what makes it unique is the fact that we're able to tell our own stories. What you have is what makes you unique and different, not telling another person's story. Our rich culture, our rich heritage, who we are, intrigues other people because they see a whole new world that is completely different from theirs. It's like looking at fantasy. What you don't understand is like fantasy. And which is why children have, when you see children's books, it takes you into a world that you don't understand. It fascinates you. You get intrigued by it. I can tell you that that's how the world sees literature and the kind of stories that are emerging from this part of the world today. In Mostitutuala, for instance, bad as the language of the book is, how many of you have read Pawan Drinker here? It wasn't about the English, because that is just a package. It was about the world he was taking us to. Completely mystical, different, fantasy. That's what happens when we tell our stories. And our scriptwriters, especially our current scriptwriters, have been able to do that through the kind of stories we're telling. Now, when you watch King of Boys, when you watch The Wedding Party, let me use The Wedding Party as an example. It immediately transports people from the West or the global North into a world that they don't understand. You see the colors, you see, the tapestry against which that story was told, rich tradition, and all of that. It was intriguing, and that was what made it fascinating for people to watch. This could not have happened without our storytellers. And so, a lot is happening. What is happening now is that we are now carrying our, how do I put it now, our Tales by Moonlight and transforming it into the silver screen and into the Palm Top, where there's convergence of media right now. Whether on your Palm Top or on the streamers, on the internet and all that. And people are beginning to see us in a way that they never did before. And so, just like Afrobeats, unique sounds, unique images, unique stories, unique traditions are being transported. And so, that is the reason today on the big streaming platforms, there's a huge acceptance of what is happening in this part of the world.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kai. Dr. Kai had given more than a pass mark to screenwriters, today. He talked about the fact that some of the movies we see today are a reflection of how they have grown when it comes to the area of screenwriting. But the Uncle Femi that we're celebrating today has been a very strong advocate for telling authentic stories, especially stories that are told through content and in context. The ones that derive their materials from a deep research of the environment where we come from, especially from where these movies are consumed, which is Nigeria. Would you say that the crop of storytellers that we have today, present to us stories that you consider very authentic, stories that are written within the context of our environment, the big elements of the environment, and really present these things the way they are supposed to be. In other words, as the stories were researched.
I'm the president of the group. Okay, I think first I will say the Nigerian scriptwriter, or generally scriptwriting in Nigeria, is still work in progress. We've come a long way. But we still have a lot of distance to go. In terms of research, adequate research, two things fuel research: proper funding or a desire by the writer to excel, to produce a work that can be heralded globally. It is those two things, and most of the time, the first one is not in existence. So it now takes a writer who wants more to go out of their way to do research. Or once in a while, you find a producer who understands the need for that. But I think even if a producer understands the need and creates the enabling environment, it's left to the writer. So I'll give you an example. Years back, I wrote, when I was writing a thing for Tule Kinani, so I had to go to Kotunu to get a feel. Now, what's a feel? A feel could be in my hotel room, just sitting in my hotel room and watching TV. I would have felt Kotunu. But being the over-adventurous kind of person I was, I went out. I hung out with the locals and everything. And it's interesting, one of the things I put there in the story, I discovered that we get our frozen chicken from Kotunu, but they don't eat frozen chicken. They eat local chicken. Now, if I'd been stuck in my hotel room, I would not have found out those little things, you understand? Those nuances, those things come up when you do research. And people always assume research is hours behind your laptop. Yes, there is stuff that you don't get on the laptop. But sometimes when you go out there, you mingle with the people, you talk to the people, there is a lot. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about documentary filmmaking. When you get there, your intention was to ask about the witch that they found 2 years ago. But you now discover that, oh, they've actually found 4 other witches in the past. And it's different, but if you just sat down and stuck yourself with what is on the internet, you may not see that. So, back to your question. Unfortunately, from what I see of a lot of young writers, a lot of them don't have that desire to, you know, when you're writing a script and you want to impress the person reading it, you want to impress the producer, impress the director. I don't know what has changed. When I was writing, I used to want to go out of my way to impress people like Efo, Tajuddin, and Co. So you are writing and you are rewriting. So you are hoping that when they read and they chuckle, you are like, yes. Yeah. But I'm reading scripts these days and I don't see that effort. People just want to get to page 90 something, get to page 100 and something. So I don't know. I think there's a need for a reorientation. People need to understand that now that we say we want to get to the global stage, it will not happen automatically. These are the little things. You know, you talk about Black Book and all those kind of things, and it's something FO has said repeatedly. I don't have the gift of words like he has. You know, he has this way of spinning this thing around. It will come out sounding like it was fried and cooked. But what essentially says is about telling African stories in a globally relatable way. So, if you tell your stories in a globally relatable way, and you research enough so that you have enough of those African nuances, you can't get it wrong. So I think that we just need a reorientation. The young writers, they need to understand that you need to research this thing. Stop taking things for granted. Don't assume. find out when you'll be shocked what will happen when you go out of your way to find out. Not only will it be authentic, but you will come up with a different spin that will give your story a unique angle that makes it even more appreciated than it could be stated.
Yeah, research and the need for us to have, a new orientation as to how to tell a story. I've interacted with a number of storytellers, scriptwriters, who will tell me after maybe we come out from the premiere, and I'll say, why is this something like this? He said, honestly, this is not in my script. And I'm wondering, as president of the Directors Guild of Nigeria, if a film fails, who should we shoot? The scriptwriter or the scriptwriter or the director? Because we hear most of the time, like the example that German cited. German said the film had ended and somebody decided to come up with a gun or something after the film had ended. In fact, I watched one funny one. A particular leading actress was not in the story at all. There was no backstory that said that the family had a child that was in the US and the rest. This film has finished. I was just expecting to God be the glory. Then I now saw a car. A car pulled off. And then from the car I saw legs. You know those people in Chinese film about Ghana is coming. Actor is coming. Film has ended. I now saw legs. Then when I was seeing the legs pan, and then I now saw this actress. Then the mama that was wailing on the floor, that would have taken over him, now stood up and said, hey, my child, you appear. And I said, appear. And I now went back to the start of the film. There was nowhere where we were told that the child was kidnapped or the child was somewhere in the rest of it. When we have those kind of films, who should we shoot? Should I go and look for a Yinka or should I go for the head of the director?
Let me crack a joke. Have you noticed something? If I asked him what the rest of the story was, he does not remember, but he never forgot this. What a book. I wish I would have the courage to do that to back. For whatever it's worth, let me start with something. And directors here in the house will know what I'm talking about. There's such a thing as director's cut. When you hear director's cut, let me say it in pidgin English. I hope the white people here will understand and appreciate what I'm saying. It just simply means, in case this is one I actually edited, that one that was released is not what I edited. This is the story I told. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So when you hear director's cut, this is like saying, this is what I edited. What the studio released may be a different thing. So if anybody ever comes and says, why did you do rubbish? You say, guy, please, do you have the time? Watch this and you can judge me by it. How many of you here can relate to our directors who know what I'm talking about? If you've worked with big studios, and I'll tell you this, I've been a victim of this. It happened to me once, it happened a second time, and I said, never again. I will never, if I'm not doing one project, forget it, or you pay the price, you have to pay enough for me to be able to, and I must reach a contract with you before I attempt it. The first time it happened, and I'll share it with you. You see, some producers will come and then you would have done the job, completed it, and you're waiting to be invited to the studio for post-production. And then the next thing I saw was the job had been finished. I'm like, what? There was a certain way I had taken the shots, and it was in my mind. I built a vision of how I wanted to, in terms of pacing and in terms of the way I wanted, that thing cut to be able to tell the story. And there was no way they could read what was in my mind. How can you sit down and tell me you finished? You've done it. And I was in a conversation with was this okay, Chairman just told us about what happened to Billy Bandele. There were scenes that he never even planned. It also happened to me. They went behind me and they shot other things and added to it. Without my knowledge, without my...
Out of the initial script.
Out of it. And then I said, I mean, it can destroy, I kid you not. You know, because you're a creator, and if your name is going to be attached to a thing like that, it can be destructive. It happens not just, even in Hollywood it happens. Which is where the concept of director's cut comes in. The studios will just have their own. You do what you have, what will be released may be a bit different. I don't know, does it? Can you relate? I don't know if it happens in Germany, does it? It should, thank you. It can happen, but it shouldn't. What about you, ma'am? It happens. Please say it loud. I want to know that.
Yes, it happens, but
it happens. No. She says it happens. He said it can happen, but it shouldn't. That's being idealistic. It may not be realistic. She said it happens. So she, you know. So who else? Can you relate to her? Are you a director? Yeah. So it could happen. And for some who work with streamers or organizations like Africa Magic, Odugbemi, can it happen? Even with Africa Magic, where? Okay, so, no, let me explain what I mean. Okay, let me not put you in the spot, sorry. I'm sorry. Let me say this. I've heard people who say they have shot and then they say they have their own editors. So you may shoot what you want, the editors determine the final look and feel. Is that? It happens everywhere. Oh, thank you. I wanted to make sure that what I'm saying does not sound strange. So he has said it happens everywhere. So that said, these things can happen, and they do happen. Sometimes it depends on the strength. Sometimes you have to be a very, very powerful director to be able to negotiate from the beginning and say, you can't touch my work. But you don't always have that privilege. You don't always have it. The studios, the producers sometimes are so powerful. They will say, look, you've done your bit, thank you. Here's your money. We have a concept of how we work, which relates to what you just said. That woman may have been the financier. Now this happens in this industry. And I know I settled a case recently. There are some people who are not even in our industry at all. They want their faces on the screen so that they can be marketable in whatever else they're doing. Do you understand what I'm saying? They just want that face so that when they go to airports, they will be given doors open for them. When they go around, it's not for anything. They are not. It's not like they are actresses, especially women. No, sorry, excuse me. They are the ones that are most guilty. They bring the money, they finance it, and they want to play the leading role in it. And as a director, you look at it, what do you do? Now, there's this big thing between what you think is right, and then you look at the money and you look at it, and you know, you say, okay, can we manage her in the road and all that? So what you saw could have been that. So it happens. The director is also a writer, but a visual storyteller. You know, so he takes the script and then translates it to the screen. I don't know if your question, okay, you asked two proper questions, what we do to the writers and what happens to us as well. So I've just spoken more about the director. So. What about the writer? The writer may want to say, oh, that's what I wrote. That's his alibi for what may have come on the screen. But it is also important for the writer to understand that as soon as he finishes writing, quite frankly, you hand over, your job ends there. From that point, the visual storyteller, the interpreter, is the director. From that point, he takes the work, whatever mutual respect, you know. But he takes that work and, like the builder with an architect, you know, you might, somebody may have designed the house anyhow, he does not understand. It may not have been with the topography in mind. an architect, I just. But if you're there and you see the topography, then you can write to it. I mean, you can design to it. But you could have just done it. You may not always have that privilege like the architect may have to see all the undulating things and build to it. But even if you do, a soil test may prove different. I know where I live today. What I had in mind was a duplex. But when we got there, did the soil test and everything, the most sensible thing to do at that point in time was a bungalow. And I did. And I've been living peacefully after. While others are. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's a director's job as a builder. So you look at it and you respond to the environment, the physical environment, and you know, equipped with building plans or whatever the things are around. You may have written something to a script that I'm going to the census board and I know that, or something may have happened just before we shot, you know, that may make that thing too sensitive, and I may have to rework that script to suit, you know, either the environment or what may be trending or what may work. So that happens. But the usual thing is, when you want to do that, it's always good to work with your writers so that everything is done in context, which means that the writer who has written the script, even if he's adjusting it, he would adjust it in such a way that everything ties in at the end of the day. I think that's the kind of relationship we should be having, the kind of partnership that we should be having, so that at the end of the day, the writer does not deny his work or the director.
All right, this panel is supposed to actually focus on the challenges of scripting in the industry. And these things are very clear. In fact, in the introductory video that was played, the president of the guild, you know, pointed to some of the challenges to include sometimes poor research, funding, and the rest. So, my question to the president: what can we do to address some of these challenges? And what is the guild particularly doing to address this challenge? We have a lot of people coming up now. In fact, I see a lot of screen credits, and I cannot be able to place my those names. That is not to say that you cannot write a script and give someone to produce. But my only challenge is that some of these people sit down, perhaps in Lagos, and then they are writing about Kano that they have no idea of, but maybe they have just read, maybe they have just stumbled on a book on Kano or on the internet and all that, and then they just write about Kano. Some of the words they are putting into people's mouths are not correct and the rest. Because we have heard a lot of people who are putting things into scripts that they have little knowledge about, especially people who write about things to do with Ifa divination, things to do with religion and the rest of them. So what can we do to address the challenges of scripting in the Nollywood industry? What is the guild particularly doing to address some of these challenges?
Okay, thank you very much. Before I answer your question, I want to bring something to your notice. You asked this guy about a question and he did answer. So we have to answer Q directors.
Q directors?
Yeah, you didn't answer. You asked, is it?
No, maybe I missed it. No, not that I said, if a film fails, who should we shoot? The scriptwriter or the director?
Okay, very good. Please let me just say that. No, you have said it and I didn't answer it. Okay, I ought to answer it.
Don't answer it like directly. I've already given all the background.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
You see that screen? Eh? Everything you see there are so many elements. What we call this one. There is production design. There are the actors. There is lighting. There is sound. There is all of that that the director employs to tell a story. If I take your question literally, if a film fails, I would say literally you're talking commercially, blame the producer. Literally. But, if,
Artistically.
very good, no, I mean, so that's why I'm separating them, that's why I cannot have one. So, artistically, what would you call failure? What do you call it now? Mami Water went to the cinemas. It's an art house movie. Artistically, no, not artistically. Okay, when I say commercially, yes, commercial. No, but when you say artistically, commercially here, the ordinary person who may not have an elevated appreciation for art house films will consider that a failure. So what is this?
Okay, my own.
So it's subjective. No,
let me. No, you have answered mine. You have answered mine. President.
It's subjective.
President, you said commercially you will blame the producers. So what if I'm queuing up at the National Theatre like we used to do in the days of the 80s and the 90s to watch films at the National Theatre? And like I normally do, I don't watch first show, which starts at 12 o'clock. I wait for the 3 o'clock show. So I'm on the queue waiting to enter the 3 o'clock because the next show is 6 o'clock. And people come out. And the first thing I ask them, how is the film? I say, go do job. They are not talking about go do job, so they are looking at the content. Which the content is what the scriptwriter wrote.
It's not difficult. I don't know how true this is, but when I was...
Oh, it's true.
Wait, no, hear me. Don't be quick to judge. You are not heard what I'm about to say.
Go ahead.
I was told yesterday, there was a panel where Film One and some other people were at the event at Red Studio yesterday. And someone told me that NDT had taken Black Book to Film One and they rejected it. Today, it became the biggest thing on Netflix. Odujo is subjective. Art is subjective. That's what it means.
Sorry, there's another thing where we need to maybe point out.
Yes.
Especially this black book. There's another thing I'd like, especially that black book example you gave. There's a different audience on each platform.
Of course.
So the audience that comes out from the 12 o'clock show may not be the audience that comes into the 3 o'clock show, but more so, the audience that watches the streamers from their home is not the audience that goes to the cinema.
Yeah.
So, rejecting Black Book might be good for them.
Yeah. No, that's why I say it's subjective.
Yes.
Subjective means that the general opinion may not be objective. What you say you don't like, maybe somebody else's,
Just to correct.
Just to add to what
Let me just correct this about Black Book. It was actually Film One that produced Black Book.
It was
Film One that gave it to Netflix.
Okay.
They advocated it for
But the
Netflix.
reason it was
They may say that.
was because they wanted to work on it.
Yes.
And they did. So it's
So the reason they did what?
they wanted to work on it.
Yeah.
So this first draft
Yeah.
wasn't right.
Yes.
And we'll talk about
And it
that.
felt maybe if they put it in the theater, it may not.
No, they just worked
Yeah.
on it. There was something there. And they
Yeah.
worked on it. So-
Yeah.
But would you say that with the benefit of hindsight, Film One would regret not putting that thing in the cinema?
No, I even feel that if you had put I even feel that if
Look,
you
there
had
are
put it in the
films.
cinema.
There are films that Film One says, no, I want this film to go to cinema
Yeah.
before the streamers, and there are films that it's the other way around. But just to add to what you said before, Victor, and I'm sure everybody here knows this, especially our veteran ones. There's a very strong saying that you can make a great. So you cannot make a great film if your director is very, very good, but the script is bad. You cannot make a
No, I
great
said so
film.
earlier. That
But
was
it can
my-
be the other way around. Okay, you said it.
I said it, yes.
I'll take it back.
All right. So let's go. So he has answered now.
Yeah, forgetting the question.
You said.
No, let's move on.
Okay, he said, Uncle Joe, recognize your presence here. Welcome, sir. All right. Yes, we said, he answered the question and said we should everybody guys because he has accepted that we should producers, we also should characters, and I'm sure he didn't want to say scriptwriter because you are here. So, and then the other question is that there are obvious challenges, in the industry, especially from that very foundation. If you don't get the script right, you will not even start talking about the film. So we have identified all these challenges to include the fact that research is not extensive enough, the fact that some people just, because of the high cost of paying big names like Ika, they just go and look for somebody by the side to write scripts and the rest of them. What can we do to help? What are those challenges first? What are the other challenges beyond this two I've mentioned? And what can we do to address these challenges? Because script is the foundation. And if the foundation is not right, the house cannot stand. We have seen very great scripts turn out to be very great motion picture, at the end of the day. And we have seen very great scripts that are not well interpreted. But we're not even looking at the issue of interpretation now. We're looking at the fact that, some people can come out from the cinema and say, that was a very good story. But maybe the interpretation was, a problem. So that's what we're, because this panel is about addressing the challenges of scripts.
Okay, so I think that capacity building is a very, very important factor. A lot of people just get into writing. Now, it's okay to get into writing, but at some point, you must really get some kind of education about it. You don't have to go to a formal school and spend 5-6 years. There are different kinds of opportunities around out there. But it is best that you actually learn how to write, learn how to tell stories. Now, I can understand the importance of this. For me, I've been particularly lucky in my career because very early in my career, I passed through the hands of people who knew what they wanted, who knew what it was really about, and they didn't let me get away with stuff. So I'm writing in Hollywood, I'm writing 5 episodes overnight, the director is calling me to thank me, then Femi is making me write one script 4 or 5 times. So thankfully for me, I had a balance. But imagine if I only had that side of it, then I would instinctively learn to scratch beneath the surface for the story beneath the story. So it is important you have some kind of education. It could be intense mentorship, but you need education. So this year, for the first 9 months or so of this year, I was head of department, screenwriting at the Odugbemi Creative Academy. And I tell you that in those 9 months, I learned more. I became a better writer than all these years. Because to teach, you must learn. And in learning, I discovered so much. And in giving examples, I started to realize why these Hollywood stories somehow make more sense. Because even in crafting it from day one, they tell you a New York City cop who is losing his sight must crack the case of the lifetime. You see, personally, he's dealing with the loss of his sight, so there's instinctively a race against time. They are rooting for him. Oh my goodness, he must not lose his sight before he does it. Then he wants to crack this case so that he can leave with a medal of honor. That instinctively already creates room for character development. You understand? Because you're rooting for the case, but you're rooting for him also. So, and sometimes when sometimes people are lucky, you stumble on that one story you seem to get right. But if you understand the formula, if you understand how these things really work, then you consistently do it. And it won't come to you in a dream. It's either you're going to learn it in some kind of formal or informal school, or like I said, intense mentorship. So we need that, because if we have that, it's simply we start to tell better stories. Our stories are not, will no longer be flat. You understand? We will see the characters develop. We will understand the need to actually develop the character, not, oh, it's going to be a boy, so you start to write this thing. What is this boy about? Where is he coming from? Where is he going to? What does he want? So I think that capacity building will do a lot. And I think that also adequate capacity building will instill a sense of professionalism. You just want to do things right. And so when you're writing about a medical doctor, not only will you do adequate research, but you will also call your friend who's a medical doctor and say, what do you think? And then they'll say, okay, it's nice, but no doctor will say this. So you know. But all the research on the internet will not tell you that. So there are layers and layers and layers of that. And now the Scriptwriters Guild, yes, we want to go into intense capacity building. We would like to train people. We want to arm them. And it's not just on the formal, not just on the formal level, where we get scholarship for them to go training places and all that. We also would like to come up with a mentorship system, because look, the truth of it, like I've discovered, is that. So let me just digress. So I met a writer once, and so she had just released one big film, and I ran into her at the premiere, and she told me that we had met before. I was like, oh, for real? Today, yes. And I mentored her, and I mentored her. She said one day we shared a cab, and the things I told her in that cab ride were so profound, it had an impact on her, on her career, and her life. And I was like, oh, wow. Well, yes, that's it. So sometimes it's about this mentorship. You understand? Being able to actually have time with people who have experience. So those are the things we're looking at the guild. But of course, there's just too much we can do. Because again, we can create all the capacity building opportunities for members of the guild. But remember, the members of the guild are about 25% of the practicing writers in Nigeria. So in as much as we will improve their skill, but because they're just 25%, you will still end up in a situation of Odu. Thank you.
All right, so yes, okay. We'll take some interventions from the floor, and then we'll come back to Dr. Kai to also give us his notes on how we can address the challenges of storytelling and scriptwriting in the industry.
Thank you.
Yes.
I wanted to quickly ask this.
Yes.
Before you sort of start.
Okay.
Because we started with that line that German
Yes.
So we started with that line, but my own response to that line is just because the scriptwriter and Bill Banlieue was not first scriptwriter.
He was the director. Yes.
He was the director. Just because he said that he intervened in his film doesn't mean that he had actually made an amazing film in the first place. My fault. No, I'm not.
No, go ahead.
The first I think I had
Yes.
of the film, before I saw it before. And now I'm saying that Professor Odugbemi was wondering if that was actually a televised version of this, and that doesn't resonate with that line about whether somebody talks. Because from what he was saying, there was so much, he was so keen putting everything in the movie. I'm not, I mean, it's late now and he can't defend himself. But the question I want to ask, because you guys are focusing on the movie, a single movie. I'm not very good with single movies. I watch soaps a lot. And that's where my own challenges with the Nigerian whole thing is. That's why I want to ask this question, whether it actually can differentiate in terms of scripting between, you know, your one movie, a series, you know, which is 7 or 8, like Zulu, you know, and, you know, this 260 episode thing. Are we allowed to forgive this 260 episode thing for flagging for most of the time? You know, I mean, that's the question I want to ask. Is that a scripting challenge?
No, sir.
When,
so,
you know, because at some point,
then put this one as something you will respect, and then we'll take this together so that we take, okay.
My name is Charles, I'm a film editor, also I'm a DOP cinematographer, and I direct most of them. So, my question is to you, sir. I wish a producer was here because normally the one, even if you go to do all the training, it's what the producer says, because they are the ones that find their money into it. So my question is this, sir. Some producers will give you a script writer like okay, do this story around this actor, or do this story for just 2 actors or 5 actors or 1 location. You understand? All those things are serious, a challenge. You understand? To give a better story. So, what are you guys doing to partner with these producers so that you guys can give good stories and not be restricted to a lot of unnecessary things?
All right. So let's please just hold on. We will take all those interventions so that we don't lose track. Go ahead. Yes, that's what I said. Go ahead.
Okay, so you said there's this Chinese saying that goes, "He who pays the piper will taste the tune." Have you heard of it? Have you heard of it? Yeah. That he who pays the piper will taste the tune. So unfortunately, there's sort of like a hierarchy in the film industry. You understand? As you go higher, it becomes more professional. But at the lower level, you might not get that level of professionalism. There's undue interference. But at the end of the day, too, sometimes it's also because the audience at that level are not so discerning and so demanding. A lot of things go on. It's not a new thing. In the 80s, when we were starting out, some footballer will come from outside the country and say they want to shoot a film. And what's the story? Come up with the story. They don't care. The most important thing is that they're playing it and there were 2 kisses in Genevieve. That's all they're bothered about. They don't care if that film never released. So it's not true. Those things happen. But as you get higher, I don't think this kind of things they're talking about will happen on African Magic Set or Netflix original and all that stuff. So there's not much anybody can do. We can't do much, I can't do much. Because the producer, with his money, once he knows where to sell that product and make money, how do you convince him otherwise? You can. And sir, what you said about stories dragging and all those kind of things in the 260s and everything, unfortunately, it's not just our own, even the American soaps. Because you find that a girl will say, I'm going to go in there and tell John I love him, and in that episode you will not leave that room. As it's going, someone will come and say, hi Jane, and say, oh, and she will talk. She has not come. Next time you come back here, something happens, she's going there to tell John, she still will not leave. So, you have to understand, it is so. It sort of crawls. Sometimes it's done so beautifully. You know that most songs are character driven. So by the time you go through a lot of characters and come back, it doesn't hit you that nobody has really moved. But if you're not going around a lot of people and there are no interesting things happening, then it's dawning upon you. So maybe the next thing, maybe what you want to tell our people. Okay, so maybe I didn't get what you. But I thought you were talking about things being so paced and all that. Yeah.
Right.
So it can also be that. So it can also be that a formula comes that, every time, because even if you are dragging, there should be an argument for that. I don't see a lot of arguments with people who die in every episode. That the song, I can see, I can understand it when you, at least even if it's one or two lines, you basically not preparing enough. You basically provided the context for some of these things. But a lot of the time, I go see things happen. I go see wonder, okay, this one has killed it. Every time I put on the TV, I'm seeing that somebody from this where they dancing. Why? So I can put it off. Maybe I'm not very good, but the thing is that it seems like this was then resort to some of those elements, and it's not the kind of because I watch South African, so I'm very sorry. And I see even in that drag, I see something, So I'm very, very particular about some of these things.
Yeah, and you said something about sometimes the way people die.
There's a lot of dying in school, but there's always an argument for that thing. I see the poetry of the text. I empathize with the text.
I understand. Let me just quickly say this. I can't make excuses, but I do know that sometimes people find themselves in extremely peculiar situations, like Mr. Ohai found himself years ago on Doctor's Quarters. and we were rewriting, almost every 3 days somebody was leaving, one cast was leaving. And if you have that kind of turnover, how can you prepare? Sometimes you just can't prepare because someone just comes and says, I'm not doing it again. And you have to think up a new story. As that story is just landing and you're going, finally, they call you and say, so person was left. That was the experience, so I don't know.
All right, so we'll take these 3 reactions, 1, 2, 3, 4, because we need to round up, we need to go see films. So let's take those 3 reactions, contributions or questions, and then we'll go.
Okay, thank you very much. There are 2 questions, mainly for the script writer.
And also the director.
Of course, I'm the director, because I've been involved in 2 movies behind the scenes. One beautiful story was lots of money, was a flaunt. The latest one this year. But I learned one thing about the scripts and about the director. And the director and the script writer being in synergy in respect to the fact that, look, yes, I love the script, however, it cannot work. Now, my question is this. What about scripts? We have script writers for movies, we have script writers for series, we have script writers for theater productions. Now, can a script writer be all and all? Because, you know what, unfortunately, when a Nigerian food is overhyped, that's why I do not watch it. Because when you ask them, you say, did you see the scene when this person did this? Did you see the scene where that person did that? What is the essence of the story? They say, oh, the person was a series director, that's why he didn't know how to do it. Then talking about what the director mentioned, even I will use this example, because I wrote an article about it, Jabu. Just like they pointed out, at the end of the film, one guy comes with a horse, and he's riding, and he's like, oh, he wants revenge. Now, is it a deliberate attempt to create a continuity When there's none needed to be, that's my questions.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Awa. I don't know if this point has been made, but I think I'm happy that Mr. Ogun talked about those points. Because, while the conversation was going on, I recall that when you then trace the trajectory of a lot of scripting, you must give some due credence to television and how it has helped to birth, a legion of scriptwriters. And I'm happy from there. So when we look at Tinsel, for example, all right, Tinsel from the start, how some of the writers on Tinsel then gave birth to a second generation of writers, and that second generation of writers have in turn become showrunners and have also given birth, all right, to another generation of writers. I think that the point must be made that television has indeed, to a very large extent, contributed, towards learning the craft of scriptwriting. And I think that, if you can get it right on TV, to a very large extent, you get it right everywhere. Thank you.
Okay, beyond the point of television, helping scripting here, the thing that I got from television is that it's usually a team of writers. It's always a team, and that's what is missing in our own storytelling here. But if you check some of the most successful films in Hollywood, you'll find out that it's a collection of writers. And I want to quote Uncle Femi from an interview granted in 2019 about a need for co-creation. Uncle Femi says, here's what I always say to young filmmakers, storytellers and writers. Understand that among the audience you're writing for are people who have lived your life 3 times and a half. There are people who have seen more than you will ever see. There are people who have done more than you will ever do. So you have to live well enough to predicate your storytelling on only your own experience. Then he goes on to say that means your storytelling must be driven by research, which is what we have been talking about here. And he also said it must be driven by other people's stories that you have consumed, which is also about talking to people about their experiences and all that. He also said, note, you can't only tell stories out of inspiration because you have not lived well enough. In that case, you need to be a collaborator. Because if you work all by yourself alone all the time, that will limit your success. Let's take another. Okay. Okay. After you then take.
Okay. My name is Mubarak. I'm an investment manager, and I have been listening to the discussion, and I feel like there is one other aspect of the discussion that we are really looking at, and that's the need for the scriptwriters, the directors, the actors to make money from the movies that they make, right? And so this kind of limits their ability to explore possibilities and really explore their creativity, right? And so the only thing they think of is what would sell, what are people watching right now, right? For context, I was speaking with a publisher some time ago, and he was telling me that there are some manuscripts he will not take, and this is why. He has done his formula, and they have seen that, okay, this is what really sells in the Nigerian market right now. We need some adult content, we need some animal, we need some of it. Then you have a highly selling book in the market. But then when it now comes to the essence of the art, making this or writing this script, it is lost because they are more revenue driven. And also, he was talking about capacity building, and I just wanted to say that are you exploring cross-professional capacity building? And this is what I mean. You are a scriptwriter and the head of scriptwriters, right? And he's also the head of directors, right? I used to be in construction. I studied civil engineering, and the architects and all here will agree with me that as an architect, you study some part of civil engineering. As a civil engineer, you study some part of architecture. And so when the director is building up the story that the scriptwriter has written, because they have some understanding of script writing, they are able to better represent, and present these stories. Thank you.
Sir, I feel I'm still not satisfied with the answer, yes, director. The response you gave to what he asked, if a film fails, and who are we to blame? Is it the storyteller, is it the scriptwriter, or the director? Because I feel that sometimes when we have a script, and the script might be very good, but the director will not do justice to the script. And then we might have a script, and then it might not be a good script, but the director will give it the colors that it's supposed to have and make it really nice, make the script come out in a very nice way. And then we have wrong scripts and wrong directors, and so the film will come out so terrible. So, but then I feel that you cannot just pick up the script and then jump onto it if you don't have the actual knowledge of it. So I feel that most directors need to ask the script writer for some knowledge of, okay, what is actually the story behind this? Explain what you are writing to me so that I will be able to direct it in a way that will come out nice. So I feel that your response to it, you didn't give justice to your response.
That is also subjective. Stay with the microphone. Stay with the microphone. Give her the microphone. Stay with the microphone. I'm going to ask you some questions. What is your definition of a failed movie? A failed movie.
Maybe when the movie comes out and people see the movie and they don't like it.
That is your definition of a failed movie. I hope you actually go to watch an art house movie and then come out. Have you ever watched any art house movie? You've not. So which means what you call pop culture. That's the kind of thing that you like and consume. Yeah? What am I saying? You see, this is art and it's subjective. When you bring a blanket, there's a movie here. It's fine that you said people don't like it. Otherwise, there's one example I want to give. How many have watched Milkmaid here? Milkmaid, I'm watching. If you ask me, it's one of the most beautiful movies that have ever come out of this country. My personal opinion. I may be wrong. Okay? And it was one of our entries to the Oscars. Unfortunately, the producers, like a mistake I made some years ago, had exhausted their budget. They didn't have money for marketing. And so we never, that's why I asked that question, only 2 or 3 people here have seen it. By show of hands again, how many have watched Milkmaid? Let's see your hands up. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, maybe 4. So many may never see it again. Does that mean that the movie failed? No. Beautiful movie, everything. There's so many elements. You can have a very bad product that is well marketed, with all the hype, and then people say it's a great movie over another movie. If Mami Water had started the journey in this country, believe me, they would have killed it before it ever took off. But they went to Sundance, and it's traveled to some of the biggest festivals. You have not watched it. If you watch it, I guarantee you will say that that movie is shit. That will be your opinion, and you are entitled to it. It's subjective. It's an artwork. How many of you here remember Ophelia, the artist who used the elephant sheet? You remember? And what?
He won the Turner Award.
He won the Turner Award, whatever that means, just by splashing elephant sheet on the canvas or on the board. That to you may be failure. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Okay? What you call great movies, there are people you play Akpala music to. For them, that is great. Somebody who consumes Akpala music, you give him jazz, you say, what is that? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Let us respect the art and the craft. So much goes into it. It's easy to just rubbish the work and say, what is all this? But it takes a higher calling and understanding to be able to see beyond the very surface. I hope you grow to that. To just look at the work and condemn it and say it's a failure is rather, sometimes you look at it, like in Sundance, what happened? The single dance cinematography. The script, some may not have liked.
Okay? The story, some may not have liked, but they singled out something. Should I have looked at a movie like that and say, shit, so much work has gone into it. And so, as you grow in this craft, I want to advise you, because have you made a movie yet? Please, when you do make one, and you bring it out to the public, and they watch it, come back and let's talk.
Please, my sister, please take your seat there. You have refused to see answer the question. So, so we'll take as a potential investor in the house, take him over from there, reading past.
My name is Odugbemi, and I'm speaking from.
I didn't get the name, madam. I'm interested in professional investor. It's okay.
It's a very simple name.
I know, Toki.
Yeah.
Toki. Okay, I want to Google, so I'll follow this investor.
Actually, so I really have been very interested in and valued seriously the comments of Mr. Inka Obu, because it really hits the core of what we're talking about. I sort of, as a consumer, look at scriptwriters generally in the scheme of things as the scriptwriter being at the base of that pyramid and the director being somewhere on the top. But no matter what role you play in a film, so I said to myself, I need to say, who is Femi Odugbemi? I don't know him personally, neither does he know me, but I left Ikeja to come here. Why? Because it's Femi Odugbemi. So I think you must understand that the consuming public know what they want to consume. Whether it's a cheap product from China or an expensive product from Germany, right? They know what they want to consume. So I think the core of the matter is, and I want you to speak to that, and I want Nicole to speak to it. How does the quality of what you produce and the integrity of that play into this in the commercial sense? Because I believe that most creatives are not very familiar with the business of their creativity. Whether it's an artist or a film producer, the theater artist, they miss the boat when it comes to business. And in all of this conversation here, we've been having general conversations about different markets. Our guest in front had to mention that, you're talking about different markets. So the script writer at the level of mass production, those that are doing the kind of thing, what are they looking for? Those guys just need opium to forget their problems of tomorrow, right? And then there's the other part. So there are various levels. How do you at each stage speak to the quality and the integrity of what you are doing? And I think that what is missing here is not only affecting the film industry, it's all professions. We are losing that sense of value and integrity in what we produce, no matter what it is, and we need to get that back. And I need to stand with her, because I don't think you need to produce a movie to know whether you watch a good movie, right? And I don't want to call the names of movies here, but we had a movie not too long ago, last year, where people actually got on social media, and the producer of that movie gave an apology because of the way we reacted. I mean, I was so thrown aback that, what? Why would a film like this that gives us certain expectations fail us in this way? So I think we really should be speaking to the heart of that thing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Let me speak to that very quickly.
Please, I just take only after this reaction, we just take those. Please, I know we want to talk about scripting, storytelling, and all that, but we need to go and watch everything with me on the screen. So we need to finish. So we just take these two, and then I acknowledge your presence, Yinka Davis, the angel, Yinka Davis. All right, so let's go. Please react.
I want to thank you very much for bringing this up. I think that this program has been complete without this. It speaks to something I've always been talking about.
as communicators, because that's who we are, by whatever means, whether displaying the pen or whatever, our duty is to understand our audience, understand our environment, and respect our audience as well, and also have them in mind when we are communicating, if we must do so effectively. My favorite example, and I'm not just saying it, we demonstrated that years before a lot of people even got to discover Mackenzie. You know, you were there. I also run a short film festival, and we recognized them almost 10 years ago when nobody ever saw it. Today they have almost 10,000 subscribers. Now, as far back as then, what I saw, some people are just here to see. Don't get me wrong, I'm a purist in terms of film, and I believe in the higher art and craft of filmmaking. But I also recognize that, like someone said earlier, not all movies must go to the cinemas. There is an audience for every type of movie. I say this when I talk to young filmmakers. I'm also an advocate of what I call specimen filmmaking. If I ask you here, how many people know Blows of Chukwuju? How many of you know Blows of Chukwuju? One. How many of you know Mandela here? Put your hands up if you know Mandela. Mandela. Put your hands up, Mandela, Mackenzie. Yeah? Is there anybody who doesn't know her? Let me see your hands. You don't know Mandela? No, let me see those who don't know Mandela. Okay, you, okay. Okay, very good. But you know Mackenzie? Or you don't? Okay. She's a young comedian. Okay, you may not. Let me know who it was. But statistics, I've done this over and over and over. Now, they tell a particular type of story in a particular way that resonates. Yesterday, somebody spoke to us about them in Google. It's from Google and said their biggest market is not even here. It's in Southeast Asia, where they don't even understand our kind of pidgin English and all that. But they consume that product like no man's business. Really? You will sit here as a purist and say, this is rubbish, what are they doing? The thing is, as storytellers, we must be able to tell stories. He said something, I knew something like that. We're talking about global, but local with a global appeal. We must be able to tell stories that resonate. And what resonates, human feelings are the same globally. How we feel about love, revenge, and things like that. And so it is important to understand that. That's a beginning point. And so you don't take your audience for granted. Which is, you don't go telling stories and say, well, they ought to. They ought to will never work. So you must write to an audience. And I agree with you completely. Because when you do that, when you show respect for your audience, then your audience will reward you with patronage and with the commercial success that goes with it. That may be something that may be lacking. There's some filmmakers that may have that kind of arrogance where they just come and do whatever and think that it goes. That's where the issue of research comes in. And today you know that data is huge on the internet. If you understand digital marketing or working on the internet, you know that even the streamers are driven by data. So our cinemas these days, sometimes when they want to get the kind of actors they want for the movies and cinemas, they tell you, how many people do they have, how many followers do they have on Instagram? Why do they do that? They are big on data. They know that if you bring this person, they will come with their crowd. So some of us may have failed in that area, and I will have to admit that. But we also have to have that consciousness that data matters, that we must write to human emotions, we must understand it. It's important to know our audience, to respect them, and to also, how do I put it, write with them in mind, not what we like, but what we know based on data that they would like and appreciate. Thank you.
All right, we have quickly to that. Please, I'm told that I can only just allow that to responses because we need to hear from the storyteller himself.
What exactly would you like to ask?
How, in your quest as the president of the Guild of Scriptwriters, right? What's your reaction? What are your thoughts around the issue of quality of work and integrity of that work? Because the lack of research and all the other things you're talking about have to do with that. And then the impact of having a commercial mind to that. So these young people are talking about need to make money anyway at the same time, right? So would they then, because for the sake of wanting to earn, just turn out any old thing, you know? So yeah.
Okay, so generally, I actually made a note of this some minutes back when I had the opportunity I will address this. So let's understand how the system works. Most of the time, writers are not telling their own stories. Writers are commissioned to tell the stories given to them by the producers. It is when you get to a certain level where your intellect has attained, when your intellect becomes equity, that is when you are actually called and said and told what do you have. And that is when you actually start to tell your own stories. You understand? So most of the time, the producer calls you, I have this idea. The producer calls you, I have this story. The director calls you, I have this thing. The truth about it is that most writers have their retirement plan stories. They keep them. They're not going to give anybody. The hope is that they get to a point where they can sit on the table with some executive from a platform. But most of the time, what happens is that they're giving stories. So those stories you see, most of the time the writer has been asked to write them. So it's funny, starting out, like I said, okay, I call it some kind of hierarchy. You have another word for it. Starting out, yes, you tell your stories because you are going around. It's like, please listen to my demo. You're going around, story, then you get to a point where, okay, you have now become a real writer, and people are calling you to do stuff. At that point, they're not asking you to bring your stuff. Now, you've proven that you can write based on your own stuff. Now, come and write my story. So for the next few years, you're writing your story. You're writing their story. Then you get to a level where someone else says, come, do you have a story we can work on? So it is at that point we can start to task the writer. You understand? For all those things you want. Yes, when it gets to that point, yes.
There's a skill to writing.
Yes.
There's a way story.
Yes.
Whether you're telling your story or another person's story. This is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about when they've gathered capital. I'm not talking about when they've gathered the capital and the value like Femi has done. I'm saying that on that journey, as they become script writers, how do we make sure that they stay with the integrity of the skill? Whether it's their story or someone else.
So, to a large extent, like I said, I think that it is really, at the end of the day, about the writer. How important is it to you? Do you go out of your way to improve yourself? Or you're okay where you are? Because you have young people who are going through this. I mean, when I was head of department at everybody, I had someone in my class that had been to New York. He attended courses in Africa. He attends courses everywhere. He wants to learn. He wants to improve. So such a person, you know that he's going to go far. But if the next person doesn't want to do that, then there's just the devil. So even when you give them access to capacity building initiatives, they won't take them. Because, you know, like the Everyday Life thing, it was 3 months, 3 intensive months. You can't do anything in those 3 months. You're paying your transportation. It must be important to you to do it. So there are some people who have refused to do it because they can't imagine that making that sacrifice. So I think at the end of the day, it's just about the writer.
It's about the writer too, and about the need for us to have a reorientation. Especially that I've seen writers who you tell them what to write, and they know that the thing does not work, and they leave the job. They tell you that they don't want to take on the job.
Yeah, experience.
Oh, well, yes, they are concerned about their name at the end of the day. They are concerned about, what will come out at the end of the day, and somebody will say, this is a work that was written by
Honestly, they are
and the rest. Well, they are, but that's what we should begin to tell people. We should not cheapen the arts because of what we want to eat. There are a lot of people in the industry who a producer will come, a certain producer will come to, and they'll tell you that, no, I don't want to do any job with you. I know you'll be hungry for some time, but you will get to that point in Capo where they will be beating the footpath to your door to get you to write scripts. So let's not even, I'm saying this because in our own kind of industry, if you don't toe their lines, you are going to be
writing to you that
will be hungry.
you can't sit down, you can't not be writing and get to that level.
Yeah, so you need to be writing constantly and the rest of that. So we'll get to that. But let's have, okay, 1, 2, and then we have the storyteller talk to us.
All right, no, mine's just in the absence of German, I think we protocol, and nobody introduced Toki properly. Toki, my sister, was the past president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So it's current vice chair of the World Federation Chamber, the World Chamber Federation. That's Africa. This very distinguished group of presidents of screenwriters, and past president of aspiring presidents, national presidents. Thank you.
When I was saying a potential investor, I knew what I was talking about because this was the former president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. She is on the board of the Lagos NANTAM, chair of the board of trustees of NANTAM, and then at the point she was even planning to set up a small community theater. We're trying to raise funds for that, so we know you so well, but thank you for finding time to be here. It's really an honor to have you sitting here. Please have a round of applause. All right, so we take him as the last, and then the storyteller will come and talk to us to round off all this. Please try it.
Okay, thank you very much. All protocol duly observed. When she was speaking, when Madam Toki was speaking, she mentioned about creatives not knowing much about the business side of it. A couple of years back, 2017, I met with Amefa Ichukwu, chairman of ANA Lagos. I met a writer, Association of Nigerian Authors, Lagos chapter. I met a young writer who happened to have written a play, and he was selling shirts in a TM Louis shop. So I took up the play, I read it, and it was a brilliant piece. I came back to him and I told him, enter this work for the ANA competition. If it's not shortlisted, my name is not Femi Ichukwu. He calls me months after he won the competition. Now, he entered the same work for the NLNG, he was on the long list. In 2017, we produced the play. Now, I put in almost all my life savings. And that's what made me stand up. We had a very brilliant production, but it was a commercial flop. I had Papi Ben as director, I had Tina Amba on stage, Rocco Ewela. So we had a beautiful cast. It was an awesome production, but after spending about 7 million, we raised only about 1.5. Channels covered, it was just a flop. And in that situation, being a greenhorn at that time, I went back to my tent and never to venture again, as it were. But this year, a friend of mine called me, he sent 2 manuscripts to me, and I told him something that if you enter this manuscript for the NLNG, you will make a long list. So he put me to tax because I now have a publishing outfit which has just published very few works. So I published it for him. He made the NLNG long list this year. But I look at these works. I'm not seeing the connect between what I call some of these good works and the potential future movies and the money spin. So there seems to be a disconnect with the very good writers, the writings, and the successful films. So that's where probably we might have to collaborate, or I might have to come and meet some of you. How do we make this collaboration work? If we're able to see that these are good scripts that have the potential to make great films, how can we all make a success out of it and smile to the bank? Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes. Okay.
Can I,
please.
Can I just point something that I think is a detriment not only
to the theater world, but also to the film world. But I think, and I'm glad we have people here from the Chamber of Commerce. I think one of the things we're lacking still is a good marketing infrastructure in a creative space. We have brilliant, like Milk Made, for example. I don't think there was a provision made in the planning process for the marketing. They ran out of budget for marketing. I think maybe your play, your magnificent play, was lacking that marketing. I think there's a gap still in the creative industry at the moment, as we speak, in a plan or a strategy, that's the word, a marketing strategy for all the great works that we're creating.